let's get to the government shutdown.
The pain, staffing issues at major airports causing gridlock in the skies. The FAA forced to slow air traffic around Chicago, Dallas, Fort Worth, Philadelphia, Jacksonville, and others as some air traffic controllers working without pay for weeks call out. And this morning fears a hunger crisis is now on the horizon. SNAP food assistance, a lifeline for roughly 42 million low-income Americans, now set to run out of money by the end of the week.
It's time to call on people to donate. Absolutely. And time to call on government officials to get back to work.
The USDA posting a partisan message on its website blaming Democrats for the shutdown, saying the well has run dry and appearing to contradict their earlier plan to potentially use available emergency funds to cover food assistance during a shutdown. In Massachusetts, where more than 1 million people will lose SNAP benefits, Democratic Governor...
Guys, don't worry, please. 40 million Americans might actually lose access to SNAP and therefore succumb to starvation. But Argentina is still getting $40 billion. Okay, I know some of you were worried. You were thinking, well, what about Argentina? What if they default on their debt? I've dumped billions of dollars into Argentine debt. I know that was a major consideration. Fear not. Maybe some of you were worried, 40 million Americans might be starving. But what about the ballroom? Fear not. The East Wing of the White House is demolished and the ballroom project continues. I know you might say, Hasan, who cares about 40 million Americans that might have to go and find food elsewhere, to go to food banks? Who cares about all of that? Are we going to war with Venezuela or not? And to them I say, fear not. We have sent aircraft carriers. We are still going to war with Venezuela. So if those are the factors and your priorities here, there is no reason for you to be afraid. 40 million hungry mouths, but the American war machine continues. So we can collectively release a sigh of relief. We're good, boys. Don't worry.
Maura Healey pointing the finger squarely at President Trump.
President Trump has chosen to stop all SNAP benefits to Americans starting next week. Leadership is a choice. And sadly, President Trump has chosen to take away food from people all around this country.
And in Michigan, families also bracing for the worst. With more than 1 million SNAP recipients in this state, too, food pantries asking for donations to meet demand.
We have over 1.4 million recipients on the program here in the state of Michigan, so there will be an influx of more people coming to our food pantry lines.
On Capitol Hill, no end in sight to the stalemate. Democrats digging in, demanding Republicans negotiate on expiring Obamacare tax credits before premiums skyrocket for some 20 million Americans. Republicans largely united, saying they won't negotiate until...
Oh, nice. No, that's chill, man. Republicans showing that they are refusing to negotiate with the Democrats when the Democrats have any leverage whatsoever. That certainly gives a lot of assurance to the minority party that you guys will, in good faith, negotiate with the Democrats when they have zero leverage. Okay. Awesome. That makes sense. I mean, but that's populist Josh Hawley, chat. There he goes. Populist Josh Hawley. I like that in the United States of America, while our foreign adversary, China, is building massive bridges, inventing new types of bone glue, creating flying cars that they're actively trying to commercialize. We have the majority controlling party refuse to offer healthcare subsidies to tens of millions of Americans in an effort not to triple their healthcare premiums. And the only point of leverage here is whether or not 40 million Americans can be fed. Like, the only reason why the Democrats are making a big stink about this is unironically so that the Republican voters don't get cooked by triple the cost of their healthcare premiums and just get kicked out of coverage. That's what this is for. It's one of the very few instances where the Democrats are actually doing the right thing. And even then, if they were to successfully pull this through, it's still a Band-Aid solution. Yeah, the USDA's own lapse of appropriations guidelines said it was going to pay out SNAP and WIC. They removed that guidance. Trump is directly starving people. Awesome, man. Reminder that there's, in fact, an additional $5 billion in contingency SNAP funding put aside for this exact kind of situation that Republicans are refusing to use. I don't know why they're doing this. I'm being honest, because like they're already seen as the responsible party for the shutdown. The Republicans are. So I can't comprehend why they would further entertain being vilified. Maybe they just think that they can outmessage the Democrats. Paramount to cut 1,000 jobs. Amazon to cut as many as 30,000 jobs. Wonderful. Someone in the chat, as I'm in the process of describing 40 million people starving, turned around and said, well, let's not point the finger of blame at our politicians. Like, I assume that was a take on the drama, right? Like, that's what you were trying to do. This is what I mean. You're like a very unserious person. Like, we're talking about 40 million people on the verge of hunger in the wealthiest nation on the planet. And you think you're going to get an own here. Please. SNAP isn't replaceable by food pantries. It is a joke to act like hundreds of dollars a month versus expired bakery items and canned beans. Yeah. No, it's absolutely not a replacement. The Trump admin found $20 billion to bail out Argentina, but refused to tap into $6 billion reserve fund to provide vital food assistance to 42 million Americans. They're using food and hunger as leverage as they hold the government hostage. It's sickening. You said, let's just start stealing. I mean, what do you think is going to happen? I think it's a mix of three things. One, they think they can out-message on it. Two, they hope the pressure from this in blue states makes Dems back down. Three, they hope it will incite violence and they can progress their plan. Yeah, I can see that. It's just cruelty politics, man. That's what this is. It's just cruelty for the sake of cruelty. That's all. That is what the modern Republican Party is. One might even say that's what they've always been. I would say that. But it's crazy that this is just melting the poor in principle. It also harms like capital as well, because this hurts farmers in the long run. This hurts grocery stores in the short term. Because when you don't have SNAP, you don't have the additional assistance to go and purchase stuff that you normally would from the grocery store. So like this literally is cooking a whole bunch of different sectors as well. America's hunger crisis is growing. We're choosing to look away. States are sounding alarm bells that SNAP benefits will run out as soon as next week. And I can't stop thinking about Ruben and many others in his position. Ruben De Silva, a 79-year-old retired accountant who lives alone in New York City, experiences when he tries to prepare a meal or go to grocery shopping since his cerebral hemorrhage. His story reflects what I see every day. Older Americans are going hungry behind closed doors. And while we're focused on the immediate crisis the government shutdown posed, we're already lost something far more permanent, our ability to see the next crisis coming. Last month, the Trump administration canceled the USDA's annual Household Food Security Report, the only national data source that measures hunger by age, disability status, and household composition. For the first time in 30 days, America will no longer track hunger nationwide. Without that data, millions of older adults like Ruben will vanquish from the view as the social safety net continues to collapse around them. That decision could not have come at a worse time. Beyond the imminent threat to SNAP, benefits have already been slashed in the long run by leaders in Washington. Meanwhile, inflation and new tariffs continue driving costs higher. In New York, grocery prices have risen more than 50% over the past decade, far outpacing wages and fixed retirement income. Those in need, including older Americans, are hit hardest by these cuts. I will say one thing. American stability, in spite of some of the worst aspects of capitalism, has always come from food and food prices in general. For everything that this government does, for all of the glaring, obvious, telltale signs of economic volatility, economic instability, the one aspect of American existence is that you can at least like purchase bread. You can at least fill your belly. And even that increased in prices. And it led to overthrowing Brandon. Inflation was a major factor in Biden losing control. Inflation played a major factor in Donald Trump winning the election. And without these subsidies, that's some third world cope. Really? I don't think you've ever seen true hunger. We have experienced it in the Great Depression. I don't think you understand what happens. We're not talking about just like Oreos or treats. We're talking straight up any kind of food. Every single revolution against monarchs has come from this. When a government can't feed its poor, when a government refuses to feed its needy and poor and tireless masses, it will no longer be able to continue its mandate of governance. Yeah, people in my country say this. I'm saying people in the third world say, at least we have bread. Oh, you're saying that's the cope that people in your developing nations say, at least I have bread. I mean, yeah, America is a third world country with a Gucci belt. This is true. But now the Gucci belt is coming off, is my point. My dad is on SNAP. This is his main source for food because he's 65 and disabled and cannot work. Like, this is what he has, and I'm extremely worried. Yeah, I think a lot of people don't understand that, like, the reason why we have SNAP benefits and the reason why we have Medicaid assistance, like these subsidies to begin with, is because of our overall refusal to solve these problems when we already have an abundance of food, we have a surplus food supply, and solving any sort of hunger-related issues is just simply a matter of logistics and also overcoming capitalism, the profit incentive for commodity production. And yet, we refuse to do that and instead offer these Band-Aid solutions. And now we're just ripping the Band-Aid off as well. So what happens? What happens? Like, it's already ridiculous that so many people need SNAP assistance to begin with. But we have that as an additional subsidy for wages on the back end so that corporations can secure profits while underpaying its wage laborers. That's why people say Walmart is the greatest recipient of welfare, because not only does Walmart receive subsidies, but it also relies on its workers getting SNAP. And when that goes away, well, then it's crime time. Because people think, oh, it's the lazy poor that have EBT, that have SNAP, not realizing that it's actually the working poor that have SNAP. As of 2020, over 1/3 of adult SNAP recipients had at least some college education, almost 20% held an associate's degree or a bachelor's degree. People don't realize this. It's not even just that. It's also the majority of SNAP recipients also have a job. It's not their fault that their wages are dog shit. Those in need, including older Americans, are hit hardest by these cuts. Yeah, not just a job, but full-time jobs, exactly. Our neighbors who are physically or cognitively impaired, homebound, and socially isolated are unable to access additional food. They can't travel to a local food pantry or supplement what they have. On fixed incomes, every price increase means skipping a meal or cutting a prescription in half. We estimate that nearly 13 million older Americans face food insecurity. With an aging population, that number will only grow. And yet, at the very moment, we need to understand the hunger crisis better. We're eliminator at best tool for tracking it. This is just talking about how the USDA survey was abolished, or not abolished, but like stopped last month. I wonder why the administration chose to no longer track who needs food assistance or who is at the precipice of complete hunger. Yeah, here's a map that shows which states rely on food stamps. 14% of the population in the state of California is a SNAP recipient. That's 5.3 million. 10% of the population in Texas is a SNAP recipient. That's 3.1 million. 13% of the population in Florida are SNAP recipients. That's almost 3 million. 7%, 5%, 8%, 6%, 10%, 21% in New Mexico. 12% in Arizona. 5% in Utah. 15% in Nevada. Some of these states have lower percentages of the population for SNAP recipients, not because they don't have poverty, but because their state is already made it virtually impossible to get it. They have additional hurdles to qualify. So just remember that. That doesn't mean that it's a sign of prosperity. Far from it. Yeah. If you look at the percentage of the population, like Wyoming has a 5% SNAP recipient population percentage, but it's not low because, I mean, I'm willing to bet if I looked into what the additional hurdles are to receive SNAP, this doesn't mean that like Wyoming is doing better overall. It just simply means that these states have extra hurdles. And Louisiana, in spite of those extra hurdles, still has an 18% rating and New Mexico has the highest at 21%.
The people who receive SNAP benefits and EBT are just lazy. Hi, my name's Lacey. I'm a single mom to a medically complex child, and I work full time. I also have to pay my rent. I also have to pay her medical bills. I also have to attend IEP meetings, which I have to go to a meeting about how IEPs are no longer.
I'm literally hearing my dad getting told the exact opposite of what you're saying from Fox right now, Law. I know Fox News is lying. Fox News' primary purpose is to basically get people like your dad to abide by a false narrative. The exact opposite, the exact inverse of reality.
Hi, hello? I have to get another job. I have to pay for childcare. Do you want to know how expensive preschool is? Do you? I have to apply to programs to help cover. Oh, wait, those programs are no longer. Okay, perfect. Great. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Fox News is billionaire news, baby. Its primary purpose is to get the working poor to feel as though others that are even less fortunate than they are somehow cynical money grubbers. You know, they're taking advantage of the government programs. That's the whole point, is to divide the working class further.
For seniors who are older than me, I'm afraid for people in general, we need to eat.
We're here at a food bank in rural New Mexico, where what might happen on Saturday is going to be felt hard. On Saturday, SNAP funding is supposed to lapse. That means that people who rely on food stamps across the country are not going to.
The USDA notices blaming illegal alien gender mutilation. What? Senate Democrats have now voted 12 times not to fund the food stamp program, also known as the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, SNAP. Bottom line, the well is run dry. It's not true. There's $5 billion that they're not tapping into. At this time, there will be no benefits issued November 1st. We are approaching an inflection point for Senate Democrats. They can continue to hold out for health care for illegal aliens and gender mutilation procedures, or reopen the government so mothers, babies, and the most vulnerable among us can receive critical nutrition assistance. I mean, I don't think anybody goes to the USDA website. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they do. But like, not only is this a fucking obvious violation of the Hatch Act, it's also an abject lie that the government is presenting. The reason why this congressional battle, this funding battle is actually taking place is specifically because the Republicans refuse to continue funding Medicaid subsidies. Okay? That's it. So the people on Medicaid are actually going to see a triple the cost in their health care. I cannot believe it. I mean, I can believe it, but the fact that they're holding additional benefits hostage in an effort not to offer healthcare subsidies is so crazy. Fact check? What fact check? That's not true. That's not true. He says many things about the issue, but doesn't explain more further about it. That's why I'm asking, what are the hurdles? Elaborate more on what? Fact check on what? That Democrats are actually fighting this congressional battle because they want to give bottom surgeries to Guatemalan immigrants in detention facilities? No, that's wrong. What can I say beyond, no, that's just made up. It's just made up, chatter. Wake the up. They lie about everything. Oh, as far as hurdles to receive SNAP, here, I'll give you an example. A lot of these assistance programs, for example, will make it incredibly difficult. Long lines long lines that you have to wait through, for example, a mountain of paperwork that you have to fill, additional obligations that they add on, like additional checks, minimum work requirements for some people who already are working. Or, for example, they say back in the day, you would get once a year, or you would have to bring in your work, your paperwork from your job site one time so that you can actually get these benefits. But now you have to do it monthly. These are all many different ways that they try to rid people, like they try to purge people off of the ranks of SNAP eligibility. All matter of the American welfare state works in this way. Okay? Like when they say work requirements, they don't just mean work requirements, because many people that are on welfare are already working, right? Many people that have SNAP benefits already work. What they mean is they're going to make it as difficult as possible to have you check in and show the government that you're actually working, like on a monthly basis. And God forbid there's any issues in your paperwork, then you're cooked. Then you're purged from the rolls. There are a million different, incredibly sinister ways that state governments and the federal government can do this with. Okay. As a matter of fact, one of the ways that the federal government and the big, beautiful bill that they just passed in the aftermath of the midterms is going to kick in additional work requirements for people to get Medicaid assistance. That is done so that tens of millions of people can be purged and no longer be eligible to get Medicaid assistance. It doesn't mean that these people aren't working. It just means that they're going to make it as difficult as possible through the portals where you put in your paperwork so that you get an automatic rejection. I'm a case manager. SNAP is insanely hard to receive. You need an ID. You need diagnosed disability. If you're work exempt, you need a social security number. You need to go into the office at least once, usually. Yeah, you need to go to office once to get it, and then you're fine. But some of these states will then add additional requirements that make it so that you have to go to the office multiple times. And let's say you live in a state you live in a rural part of your state, and there's no public transit. Let's say it's very difficult for you to travel to the state office and then stand in a line for 3.5 hours because they specifically undercut the state government caseworkers because they don't want to handle all of the extra paperwork. They make it difficult as possible. We saw this during COVID. Many of the states purposely designed incredibly complex websites to offer people additional subsidies. So in order to receive the additional subsidies during COVID, you had to go to the websites by the states, and the website would brick half the time. So you couldn't even apply on the website. That was done deliberately. That was done so that people would not have ease of access. There are many different bureaucratic hurdles that the state governments place in front of people getting this aid on purpose so they can basically eliminate as many people as possible from receiving this life-saving aid. I'm a case manager. SNAP is insanely hard to receive. You need an ID. You need to diagnose disability. If you're working SNAP, you need a social security number. You need to go to the office at least once. Usually you need a phone or some way of being contacted. You need an address. There's lots of hurdles that are not even physical barriers. Dude, you are so right. It is intentionally difficult to fight over the most vulnerable amongst us. Exactly. They don't openly say, we want to kill the working poor. Okay? At least yet. They don't say that yet. They might in the future, but they don't say that right now. They say, oh, a lot of people are taking advantage of the expansive welfare state, which we don't really have an expansive welfare state regardless, but they say a lot of people are taking advantage of it. They're lazy. So we have to ensure that people aren't cheating the system. Meanwhile, because of all of the limitations that I described, there is no problem with quote unquote cheating the system. The real problem is that people who need this assistance can't even get it already. To echo the other case manager, it's very frustrating the amount of times that I've been to SNAP or to benefits office to try to help. It's an all-day process. Many times my clients got frustrated that they just left. I can't blame them, but now, when I was on SNAP, I had to attend bi-weekly meetings that were an hour from my home. The meetings were about finding a job. I had 3 jobs at the time. If you missed one, you lost your benefits from the month. I missed them all the time because I was working. You know, the thing they said I needed to do to qualify. It's all on purpose. After 5 missed classes, you lost benefits and couldn't apply for 13 months. The amount of social torture that you have to withstand to get a crumb of assistance in this goddamn government is so insane. And many people are utterly oblivious to that reality, unfortunately. And those who are fortunate enough to never have to deal with this don't understand what it takes and are also negatively polarized against it because the television, Fox News specifically, is constantly saying these guys are broke monsters. They're poor because of a moral failing, and they're actually cheating the government. They don't want to work. They're lazy, and they're taking advantage of your tax dollars. Or in the case of this government, they just straight up lie and say it's the undocumented migrants that are doing this. Undocumented migrants can't even take advantage of any of this
going to be able to go get food, put food on the table for themselves and their families in the way that they used to. And perhaps no state is feeling the brunt of that more than right here. about 500,000 New Mexicans rely on food stamps, rely on SNAP. That's about 21% of the population, the highest participation rate of any state across the country. Right now, people here at the food bank have been telling me that they're feeling a mix of fear about what comes next once this funding dries up, and frustration with what's going down on Capitol Hill.
They're not suffering. They don't need the program. All of us that need the program are the ones that are going to suffer. If they could put themselves in our shoes for one day and see how it is to be able to live from day to day, just with the uncertainty of what's going to go on.
How are you feeling in this moment, knowing that that funding is set to?
Disheartened, lied to, sad, scared, frustrated, upset.
It is not sustainable for food banks to fill this gap. We were not built to do this. We will stand out there and we will do our very best.
People in my community, I have a next door neighbor. She's raising 2 grandkids. She doesn't get any welfare for them. SNAP is the only thing keeping her going. Without that, she doesn't have any money. She can't find a job. She doesn't have a car. So without the SNAP, she's not going to be able to feed her grandkids or herself.
I spent time working in fraud investigation for SNAP too, and it might legitimately have been the worst experience I've ever had in my life. Nobody's trying to cheat the system on purpose. People trying to defraud SNAP are in a situation so desperate that they've determined that it's worth the risk of lying. That's where we're at in the United States of America, baby. Awesome. And of course, when you're starving, you're gonna do crime, okay? It's like the most basic principle. Like, if you're starving, what are you supposed to do? Like, I can't fault them. I can't fault people for trying to steal shit. They're starving. And then we can talk about how crime is out of control and it needs military intervention. Meanwhile, those veteran families also receive SNAP. I cannot think of a more insane analogy where the psychotic, billionaire-backed administration is building a ballroom while 40 million Americans are about to lose the marginal assistance that they get to eat food every day. This is the richest nation on the planet. And then we wonder to ourselves, like, why are people becoming more open-minded towards socialism? I wonder why, dude. Why the f do you think? Yes, I have thought about putting on a drive for a food bank. Yes, I'm working on it.
After the government is reopened.
Veterans aren't getting services right now. The elderly aren't getting services right now. And pretty soon, needy children aren't going to eat.
Now, the Senate will return here to Washington tonight. Republicans have tried and failed 12 times to pass a bill to end this shutdown in that chamber. Meantime, the House of Representatives is on recess for the 5th straight week in a row. Speaker Johnson signaling he'll keep that chamber out until the Senate votes to reopen the government. George.
And the members of Congress are still getting paid. Okay, Jay, thanks very much.
We are in the 4th week of the government shutdown, and the pain is becoming real for many Americans. Hundreds of thousands of federal workers just missed their first full paychecks. And this week, food stamp benefits for 40 million Americans will be cut off. Nicole Killian has more from Capitol Hill.
For the past 27 days, Sarah Lamb has continued to go to work at a Social Security field office without pay.
I'm the head of my household. I'm the sole income provider for my home. I'm a parent. I have 2 small children. I carry the load in that sense. Not having an end in sight, I think, adds to that anxiety, and everything's very uncertain.
So some people cheat the system or no? Exactly. That was my point. Listen to him. You told me that 0 people cheat the system, lol. And Hasan said the complete opposite. Sit this one out. Fake lib. Yeah, you're right, dude. People actually are becoming millionaires by cheating the SNAP system. No, dude. It's because the fiscal cliff that exists, like the benefits cliff that exists, makes it so that they have to cheat, as opposed to having no benefits cliff whatsoever. If you were even remotely competent and understood how any of this stuff works, you would understand that there are a lot of people who are directly in the margins, okay? They're just right on the margin of those benefits. They still need it. Hasan is a terrorist, and if you watch this idiot, you're just as brainwashed. God, I love these dude. Oh my God. Enjoy your parents and your grandparents starving, chatter. You know, your goat did this, okay? You can go to sleep hungry every night and close your eyes and imagine how beautiful the ballroom for your big, beautiful president is going to look like. You can eat those dreams instead. Moron. Are work requirements important in your opinion? No. No. Absolutely not. No, it doesn't work that way anyway. We're talking about food, man. That's crazy. Like, I love this idea that people are like, well, if there's no work requirements, everyone will stop working. And then what? Live off of $25 in assistance a week? Like, what are you, crazy? Yeah, thank God for those work requirements. Okay, that's not the reason why 80% of people on SNAP are working already.
She's one of nearly 500,000 federal workers who missed their first full paycheck Friday.
No money is no money. So if we're not being paid, then obviously
These arguments are 100 years old. I know. No, not even, especially if we're talking about crime and the likelihood of crime happening as a consequence of poverty. That argument is thousands of years old. It's not even hundreds of years old. Thousands. Okay? That's like ancient Greece. Like, it's insane. Okay? The Romans knew this reality. Ancient Greece, they knew this out. I'm sure the Hittites, the Sumerians knew about it too. I don't know. I don't know how far it goes, but like this argument has been around for quite a while, okay?
obviously edits have to be made. I have a mortgage. It's only my name on the deed to this house. So
the benefits cliff is insane for everything. I used to work in a restaurant. We ended up having really good holiday season. I made $1,000 too much for the year and ended up owing $4,000 for ACA subsidies. I no longer qualify for it. It was horrible. It took me all year to pay it. Yeah, that's another reason why I advocate for universal health care. The benefits cliff is insane, okay? It makes no damn sense. Like, do you think this person is a cheater? Because that's what the government thinks. That the government's saying, oh, well, you made $1,000 over the line that you can't cross. So sorry. Now we got to claw back those additional subsidies. A benefits cliff is, let's say, up to $30,000 you get Medicaid coverage, okay? As in the government gives you $4,000 a year to pay for your health care. If you make $31,000 because you have a dynamic salary due to being in the service sector and the amount of tips that you get, all of a sudden, at $1 past the point of that $30,000 limit means you are no longer eligible for the additional subsidies that you have received that past year. Therefore, you have to pay it back to the government. That's what a benefits cliff is. And if you're getting $4,000, in assistance at the $30,000 price point, technically you're better off not making that extra $1,000 because now you have to pay $3,000 additional dollars to the federal government as opposed to receiving a total with your benefits $34,000 a year. That is what is known as a benefits cliff. And the greatest elimination of said benefits cliff is universality. Universal policies, universal health care, universal child care.
if I don't pay it, I don't know who will.
This week, thousands more are expected to get no pay, including air traffic controllers. A series of staffing shortages Sunday prompted a temporary ground stop at LAX, with additional delays reported in Newark, Chicago, and Washington, D.C.
We had 22 staffing triggers. That's one of the highest that we've seen in the system since the shutdown began, and that's a sign that the controllers are wearing thin.
The U.S. Department of Agriculture also issued a dire warning about the food stamp program SNAP, which covers more than 40 million Americans. The agency bluntly stated on its website, the well has run dry. At this time, there will be...
I guess technically this is universal when you think about it. The only time where there is universality is when they just shut the faucet entirely. Awesome. And they over the working poor unconditionally across the board. 40 million Americans. 40 million Americans.
No benefits issued November 1st.
If the president was in D.C. rather than being overseas, we could open up the government on Tuesday or Wednesday, and there wouldn't be any crisis in the food stamp program.
There is an urgent need to reopen the government.
On Face the Nation, Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries defended his party's strategy, insisting Republicans must extend expiring tax credits under the Affordable Care Act to combat rising premiums as open enrollment begins at the end of this week.
That's why we need action, not simply words, a wing and a prayer.
No votes are currently scheduled on government funding, but there are some bipartisan discussions on various measures to pay essential and furloughed federal workers. Tony?
Nicole, thank you very much.
I work in healthcare regulatory policy. I can attest that the big bill work requirements will remove caregivers from Medicaid benefits that otherwise allow them to be full-time caregivers for their children or completely dependent parents. That means patients relying on 24/7 caregiving by a relative will no longer have them at home. With excruciating home healthcare costs, patients, mostly kids, will die from preventable complications. Yep. Former dependent of a vet here. My family relies on SNAP, myself and my 2 kids. I'm unable to afford childcare, so we rely on SNAP, $725 a month or so. And I just got a bill for $4,000 for 10 years ago for the birth of my son from when I was on TRICARE. So now no SNAP and new debt looming over our heads. I have 2 autistic kids who only eat very specific safe foods. Food banks are not an option for us. This is the reality of many Americans. There are 40 million Americans like that. Okay, 40 million. What? ACA subsidies are not related to Medicaid? Okay, dude, it's just the Affordable Care Act's marketplaces, okay? I was using Medicaid as a different example, okay? But that, like, I was using Medicaid as an example of how to describe the fiscal cliff, okay? It's the same shit. And for the record, the ACA subsidies that are coming in also do come from Obamacare, specifically to states that have expanded Medicaid under the ACA. It's all Obamacare. I work for a government contractor, and they sent out a whole sheet of resources, aka loan programs to help workers during this unprecedented time, loans to live. Don't worry, dude. We got, what was it called? Oh my God, Klarna. Don't worry, guys. Klarna. We can use Klarna to pay for your groceries. Klarna for all. I've literally never heard of that. Klarna is a credit company that famously partners up with like Postmates and shit. So you can actually take out loans, like micro loans, to pay for your pizza delivery. It's awesome. Yeah, Lamau, except they make you pay a quarter up front. Yeah, put your burrito purchase on a payment plan, dude. To finance houses, and then we started financing cars. Now we're financing burritos, dude. We're financing Taco Bell, and no one looks at that and goes, I think this system is broken. Like, it's so insane. It is so insane to me that we're just out here being like, America, the wealthiest nation on earth, unimaginable amounts of debt. So much debt that are taking on debt to eat burritos. What are we doing? Oh God, the GDP though, man, that's called innovation. Yeah, that's that beautiful GDP growing innovation right there. You don't understand. Burrito debt. Now we have another company. Why hasn't anybody just said that they're Argentina so they can get bailed out? Yeah. Hello, Mr. President. I'm Argentina, the beautiful nation state. Please give me $20 billion. Otherwise, if you do not give me $20 billion, I might default on my debt. And you have some very powerful Americans who have purchased my debt. Oh, wow. Thank you. You're doubling the money for no reason, and you will now give me $40 billion? Yeah, yo soy Argentina.